Today, I want to share with you a very special story. My neighbor, now friend, Martina, is here in the United States going through asylum proceedings in the United States immigration courts, and she needs our help. Right now, her legal fees are more than she can afford. So I want to share her story with you so that you can learn what many people are going through as they're trying to find safety here, and so you can share with what you've been given to someone who desperately needs it. Martina's case was put in a pause point because she didn't have legal representation at the beginning of filing her case. And so they paused her work authorization clock, which means that she would not have the opportunity to work to be able to get the funds needed to hire a lawyer. So people have come together to donate to get the lawyer contracted, get the beginnings of a case put together, but we haven't raised the full amount needed. We don't have the amount to get the request in for her work authorization clock to get restarted so that after a few more months, she can actually begin to work here in the U.S. and not enough funds to get the case filed so that she can go to court and her lawyer can defend her and plead her case for why she deserves to stay here as an asylee. This will not be in video. We are trying to keep her information more secure for the sake of her safety. There is, so aside from her first name and a photo on the donation page, you'll just get to hear her story. So please have understanding for why there's not video of her showing, because she's still trying to make sure that those who were seeking her life in Ecuador are not able to easily track her down. So Martina is here in Minnesota, unable to work. But you will hear of her incredible work ethic, volunteering in the neighborhood, for joy of her perseverance and of her faith. So I invite you to listen to this story where Martina endured terrible extortion in her own country. That includes accounts of how racism impacted her ability to get justice, and how just deep the corruption within the government made it so that she had to flee here for her life. I want to see her safely here for decades to come, and so I'd really appreciate if you are able to listen and share as you're able. The donation link is in the show notes. Thank you.
Un locro de pata.
What you are about to hear is a little bit of Martina and I's conversation in my kitchen where she shares her story. If you can understand Spanish, you will hear that my Spanish is not great, but we have recorded it, transcribed it into Spanish, and then translated it into English, and now have produced it so that English listeners can hear what she has to share.
Está bien. Se me fue mucho la fuerza.
We can start with a little description of what your life was like in general, before all your difficulties. You lived in Kininde?
Kininde.
And what type of city is Kininde?
It's a coastal city. It's a canton of the province of Esmeraldas. It was a very welcoming town where lots of fruit grows. Cacao grows a lot in its rural area. Business is very good. Was very good because it's been ruined. It was a very beautiful town for tourism because it has forests, waterfalls, it has pools, it has beautiful farms to visit. It was very beautiful for that tourism.
And do you know For how many generations your family lived in Kininde?
Son muchas generaciones porque
Many
estuvo
generations, because my great-grandfather was there, then my grandfather, then my parents. My father died, but yes, many generations, many decades.
And you were born in Kininde?
en Kininde, sí.
In Caninde, yes.
All your life in that place?
Toda mi
The
vida, la
majority
mayoría
of my life in that place. I would go up to the capital because I had a business, but really, yeah, I'm from Caninde.
And what type of businesses did you start?
Well, first I had a restaurant in Quito. Later, since I brought products from the coast to the highlands, I liked that and I saw that in the highlands there were many cheap things that you could use to set up a shop in Caninde. So that year, I opened up a shop in Caninde and I would bring products down from Quito to Caninde.
Your family, is it common to have many businesses, or is that something special to you?
It's something special to me. Yes, I learned it throughout life. I've always liked to surround myself with positive people. I've liked to listen to advice. And most of the time, I traveled to Quito where my godparents lived, and they gave me a lot of good advice. So because of that, my life, or my way of being, is very different from people on the coast. I'm more quiteña than coastal in my ideas, yes.
Yo soy más quiteña que costeña en las ideas. Sí.
And how did you come to learn how to do all these things?
Well, with help. They would teach me, and I learned fast. I put effort into it, and I keep learning. I keep moving forward. If I don't know something, I ask. And if I can investigate, I investigate on the internet. And if it still doesn't turn out right, then I ask. For example, when I wanted to form a marketing plan to start a micro business making jeans, I asked an engineer who knew a lot about the sewing industries how I could do it. Then he guided me. We made a complete project on how to start the micro business to be able to supply other small businesses. Because in Caninde, there's no pants factory. So people would go to Santo Domingo to the market. And when the pandemic came, it was very difficult because the market closed. It was crazy. So since I already had contact with the engineer, I contacted him and asked, how can we do it now that things are like this? People need products. The merchants are running out of product. So we started selling it on social media. I expanded on a social media page called Clothing Attraction. And with that, he would send me pants. I would pay him, he would ship them, and I would post them on social media. And people saw the posts and then they bought them. When the pandemic ended, I already had many small clients in Caninde. My business had grown. It became more solid, almost like a distribution company. I would distribute it to all the shops in the Esmeraldas region, Caninde and surroundings. I sold a lot of pants. Then I added backpacks, school supplies, uniforms, socks. Well, it expanded. It grew. That's how I started.
You were also a teacher, right?
Yes, of course. I had the opportunity to enter a program in Ecuador by Joaquin Gallegos. Since I had had an accident with the father of my children and myself, I was using crutches. They came and asked, what level of education do you have? I said, I graduated high school, but I'm studying at the university, studying family educational psychology. Oh, he said, that's good. What level are you at? I'm at level 5. He said, we can prepare a file for you, so when we come next time, we can take it. I said, yes, that's good. So I submitted my file, and 8 days later, they told me I had to show up to work in the field. And I was using crutches, so I said, oh, now what? But I went. And when I arrived, it was to work with special needs children of all ages. There was no classification then. Many people with all kinds of disabilities. And I said, if they can, so can I. I took my crutch, approached the desk, sat down, and began talking with the parents. And we continued the process. That's how I entered and continued working. I continued doing my therapies, and that's how I began working directly for the government as a special education teacher. I worked 14 years. I left when all this happened and I came here. I eventually resigned so they wouldn't mark me as abandoning my job because I've always been responsible. I never had a memorandum or anything from the Ministry of Education or the government. My record was clean, and it hurt me to leave without resigning, so I resigned before coming.
And all the 14 years were with children with special needs?
Yeah, all with children with special needs with different disabilities. But I learned a lot from them because you learn from them. I learned so much that later I graduated, gained more experience, and learned how to handle them. I knew if they were crying from pain or joy or sadness, all those emotions, I learned how to calm them. Later, they gave me the opportunity to be the school technician because I moved into the city. I wasn't in the rural area anymore. Then I worked as a technician, selecting students by disability to assign them by level. So we started working by levels, by disability, and by age. It was a beautiful experience with them. It was beautiful.
Y fue una experiencia muy linda con ellos.
And how would you describe the community of Kininde?
Well, the community of Kininde is economically low in its surroundings because they live off agriculture. And farmers, they always work, they bring in a lot of product, but they have a lot of expenses as well. They almost never benefit from all their work because the one who buys, that's the one who really earns the most just for buying. And the exporter's the one who really wins. So the canton of Kininde has many needs, yes.
And the people, are they religious or how would you describe them?
Bueno, la verdad es que hay grupos.
Well, honestly, yes, there are many religious groups in the Universal Church and the Adventist churches, the Christian churches. There's also a group that just lives life however they want, like in any city. But yes, there are many religious people. I think us religious people are in the majority.
And so, with regards to your story, there's a man who talked to you about giving you more money? Or was that the original situation that started the extortion?
Yeah, so originally in Kininde, for having projects or farms, there's a bank called Bank Ecuador. It promotes government loans and they often go out offering them. So other people, intermediaries, go around offering loans. And I trusted that because I was always busy. One came to offer me a loan, and I accepted, giving him all the information he asked for, financial information.
Un crédito, y entonces yo cogí y acepté dar todas las indicaciones que él me pedía.
And then this man who was talking about being from the bank, he mentioned your nephew, right?
Yes, he mentioned him. I had just gone on a work trip with my coworkers from school. Each year we traveled after a long year of work. We would go for 4 or 5 days on a retreat. I was on that retreat when they called to say that my nephew had, on April 12th, he died. And I was far away because he died in Kininde, and I was in Baños, farther into Baños, the beginning of the Amazon, but not too far. I received the news and couldn't return. On the 14th, they buried him. We also returned. I went to see and nothing could be done. My siblings all said we would leave it there, let him rest in peace. But the surprise was that later, like in May around the 15th, the man tells me, he starts implying something about how my nephew had died, asking if we knew how he died. I was surprised because it wasn't shown on television or social media. It was just handled quietly. So he made it sound suspenseful.
Do you think your nephew's death was caused by them? Or you don't know?
I think so. I think it was them, because they gave me the complete description of what happened, but never said we did it.
And that was the beginning of the extortion.
Yeah, that was part of the extortion. It was like they were already intimidating me.
And then, what was it like when this extortion situation started? What were you thinking? Did you think it was just one event that would end after a few months? What was going through your mind?
Bueno, cuando
Well, I heard of extortions happening to other people, so when it happened to me, I said, oh my God, this is what it is. I thought it was different, and I wondered, how long will it last? If I pay the amount they're asking, will I be freed from this? Or will it continue? How's it going to go? It was uncertain. I didn't know. My thoughts went everywhere.
And this situation continued for 1 or 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you try to seek help?
Well, first, I spoke with the principal of the school I worked at because I couldn't handle the nerves anymore. Even though they intimidate you and say, you can't talk about this with anyone, you have to stay calm, just focus on paying.
tranquila, solamente dedícate
But
a
I
pagar.
couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't handle the children. I became very, I started spending most of the time crying. I cried for everything. If someone said something to me, I cried. I just became very sensitive, too sensitive. So I spoke with the principal and she understood. The solution was to put a substitute teacher in and for me to leave the province, yes.
What other places did you go to?
I went to the capital, Quito. Since I had my restaurant there, I went to run the restaurant. I closed all my communication channels. Telegram, because Telegram is used a lot for personal, work, and business. So I closed Telegram, I closed all my social media down. I only kept WhatsApp.
Solo me quedé con WhatsApp. Ujú.
When you were there, why didn't the government help?
Because in Kinship, or in Ecuador, corruption comes from the government workers themselves. They say the same authorities are also being extorted and threatened with their families. So they pretend they don't see anything. Like we say, they look the other way.
In Ecuador, how do people describe your skin color?
Well, we're Esmeraldeños. They don't like us in the capital, in Quito, the highland people, because they say we're black, that we're monkeys, that we're lazy, that we're the worst just for being black.
Bueno, somos lo peor por el hecho de ser negro. Ujú.
You say, how did the color of your skin affect this
Fue
situation?
más complicado por mi color de mi piel, porque yo al
It was
llegar
more
aquí,
complicated because of my skin color. Because when I arrived in Quito and began to seek help for my situation, the first thing they judge is color, who you are, what family you come from, whether it's a powerful family or not. That affected me a lot. It brought me down. They told me that no, they could not take my case and that I had to go back to my canton where the problem was happening and make the report there. So I cried at that moment. I said, how can I go back when they're trying to kill me? If I go back, it means death. And they said, that's very cruel, very hard case, but it's your problem. We can't do anything.
And what happened to change your mind about staying in Ecuador?
The truth is that when I saw they didn't want to help me there and that the only thing left was to return to my canton, and they also didn't help me transfer to another province for work, even though they could have, I asked to be transferred from Kinship, Esmeralda's province, to the Quito province, to the cantons of Pedro Vicente or Cayambe, which were far away, so I could keep working. But I submitted all the documents and received no help. So, seeing all that, I said, no, I have to leave the country because my life is in great danger. So I resigned. And about a month later, I left. The principal was very kind. Even risking things, she helped me by keeping the substitute in place. Then vacations came, and she helped me with that too. But when classes resumed, if they didn't give me the transfer, I legally had to return to the canton to work, or resign, or abandon the job. And since my record was clean, nothing bad on it, I decided to resign.
And you shared with me that towards the end of your time in Ecuador, there was the death of a boy named Darwin, yeah?
Sí, fue muy duro.
Yeah, it was very hard. That's when I decided to talk with the principal and tell her, because I couldn't pay. I was late 1 month. It was a certain amount every month, and I fell behind. So they took Darwin. There was a pair of brothers, identical twins. One of them was my daughter's boyfriend. And they got confused. Instead of taking her boyfriend, they took his twin. We searched for Darwin for 5 days. On the 5th day, he appeared, but he appeared very disfigured. He was already dead, very disfigured. It was very hard. Later, he wasn't found at first, but they called me and they said they needed to see my oldest son and that I needed to go do another errand for them. And they said, "You already found Darwin, right? They didn't say Darwin. You found your relative?" I said, "No, we're still searching."
In 2024, when you left Ecuador, who left with you?
When
When we left Ecuador, I left with my daughter Sheila, and I left with her boyfriend, Wilson. And we arrived here in the United States at the wall. We crossed the wall and surrendered to immigration. Sheila and I stayed in one cell because she was still a minor. And Wilson was taken to another cell. We didn't hear from him again. It wasn't until later, when we were already here in Minneapolis, that we were able to find out about him. We began to investigate where he was, and we learned that he had been imprisoned and then deported back to Ecuador.
They deported him immediately?
Yeah, immediately. He was imprisoned for about 3 months here in the United States. And after 3 months, they deported him. And he's in Ecuador.
And when you were in the United States, did your asylum case start immediately?
So when I turned myself in, I immediately told them why I was coming. And from that moment, they told me it was an asylum case. And I kept reporting, but they also it was the thing they put on you to track, I forget the name, they put it on your ankle. With that, I spent like 25 days, and every 8 days I had to report to them. Then they removed it.
Now you are working on your asylum case.
Sí. Ahorita estoy trabajando por mi caso de asilo.
Right now, I am working on my asylum case. About 6 months after arriving, I submitted my asylum application. I wrote down everything that happened, and with help from a friend here in Minnesota, we submitted the case. Now, with help from another friend, we are continuing the case.
And your daughter was part of this case too, but what happened to her?
Well, with my daughter, when we arrived here, I enrolled her in school. She was in high school, but then when the President Trump, started saying he was going to detain people, that he was going to deport people, she got very scared. Especially because she already knew what prison was like because of what happened to Wilson. She said it was very hard. She began to cry, didn't want to go to class, and if she went scared. She didn't want to go anywhere else. She only went to school, came home, and cried, saying she wanted to return. She wanted to go home to Ecuador, and she did.
¿Y se regresó?
Now, how is her life and the lives of your other children in Ecuador?
Well, Sheila's life is hard. She lives in the countryside with her father. She only goes out when necessary. Her life is very hidden. She can barely do anything. And my other son, the oldest, who is in Ecuador, he's in Quito. He was working in a factory, but the criminals, the extortionists, they've located him, even there. They reached him there. and the bosses realized he was being extorted and told him to resign. So he resigned. He's been without work for 4 months. He stays in a rural area of Quito, not in the city.
Yeah, this story is very, very sad. And now, could we hear what has happened in your life since then? What things of hope are in your life now? What has God done for you?
What has he done for me?
Yeah.
Ya, mire, la verdad es que yo sí
The
soy muy
truth is
agradecida
that
con
I'm
Dios,
very
de todo
grateful to
corazón,
God with all my heart, deeply.
muy profundamente.
And I know that God exists
Y sé
because
que
with
Él sí es
everything
Dios.
that happened
Con
and
todo lo que
everything
me
I went
pasó,
through,
con lo que
God
me
was
pasó a mí,
always there.
siempre Dios
When
estuvo
I was
ahí.
migrating in
Cuando yo
Mexico, we
venía
were
migrando
kidnapped, my daughter and I, and Wilson and 3 other boys who came with
México,
us. We'd met them on the
nosotros
journey.
los
I prayed
los
so
secuestraron con mi
much
hija,
to God when we were in that
también secuestraron a
situation.
Darwin y a
And
todos
I don't
los
know,
que venían con
just by
nosotros ahí, que
twisting one
venían
of their
con
fingers, they let go of
conmigo.
me, and I
Y
managed to move
era
forward a
tanto
little.
Dios cuando
And
vi
my
que
daughter
estábamos
also,
en esa
she
situación.
clung to
Y no sé,
prayer, and
solo
they let her
mirarle el
go.
dedo a uno de ellos,
Suddenly, another car arrived. They said it was the federal police, and the kidnappers ran. They released us. They only took one girl from the group. We were freed. Then we kept going. When we got to Mexico City, there too, when we got off the bus, they tried to kidnap us again. The bus driver had sold us, all migrants, and instead of taking us to the terminal, he took us to another street where there were taxis with people. And as we got off, they grabbed people. We managed to get away. We took off one of our shirts. We were wearing 2 each, and threw it so they would lose grip. We ran into a park and sat among other people. Then we ran to the street and waved down a taxi. Thank God he picked us up. We told him to take us to the most expensive hotel around, because we had heard stories like this and knew expensive hotels were safer. The man took us to a hotel, 100 pesos. Expensive for Mexico, but since Ecuador uses dollars, US dollars, it was cheaper for us. We stayed 10 days. After 10 days, we were able to leave. So in all of that, we saw God's hand. The hotel owner helped us buy tickets to continue safely all the way to the border wall. When I arrived in Minnesota, because I arrived directly in Minnesota, it was very hard because I had the ankle monitor.
¿Cómo se llama el reloj? Que no me acuerdo el nombre. Que le ponen en migración, le ponen en el pie ese.
They give you a phone, they track you closely, like a criminal. I'd never been through that. For me, every time the phone rang, I got nervous. But they helped me. They called and asked if I was okay where I was staying, and yes, it was a beautiful experience with God. Then I decided to look for a church where I could go, and I began going.
And how many months was that?
Well, I began going to church a month after arriving because they removed the ankle monitor. I felt freer. I only had the phone program. They didn't put one on my daughter, only on me. They also did a DNA test on Sheila because she's very light-skinned like her father, and I'm black. They thought I was kidnapping her. They didn't believe me. The DNA test showed that she is 100% my daughter, so they didn't put one on her, only on me.
Now, and now, how do you have peace and hope in these difficult times?
Well, for me, it's been very difficult. And like I say and keep saying, now I know that there's truly a God, because only through his miracles am I here in this country. I haven't been able to work, so financially it's been very difficult to pay rent, pay for food. Thanks to donations, I volunteer and that gives me food, but rent and everything else is very hard. Now my son is without work and it's hard to help him. Money's not life, but it makes life easier. If you have money, you can take care of your basic needs. But if you don't even have money for the basics, it's very difficult. Very, very difficult. But I'm thankful to God because I've found friends here I never expected, like Lucas and David. They have always been looking out for me. They've cared for me, even in their home. They've endured me, and I've been there with them. My hope is to get my work permit, to work, to have legal documents, to be able to get my children out of the little hell they're in, because it's very hard for my 3 children in Ecuador.
And what is your experience with the community in this part of Minneapolis? How's it similar or different from Kininde?
Here, apart from immigration, it's very different. Here, I'm only afraid of immigration, of ICE, not of people. I see immigration like animals that want to catch you and do something bad. But the people? No. People are very kind, very friendly. Through selling food, people got to know me. If they see me walking, "Hey, Martina," I think, oh, they're greeting me. That makes me happy. At the volunteer group, people from the neighborhood see me. I'm social. "Hey, Martina." They know me. Latinos and Americans greet me, kids and adults. It's been a very beautiful welcome. And spiritually, too, because many times with Lucas, when we're volunteering, we talk a little about God's Word. We invite people to the Thursday evening gatherings. People say, "Oh, how nice, we'll go." So more people are coming because of that. For me, that's beautiful. It's my new life.
And now you're with a church community. How do you describe your experience there?
Well, from the month I arrived, I went to a Latino church. I stayed there for more than a year. But I also knew this new church. I went on Thursdays, even while going to the other church, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. I was always connected to this group. Then I decided to go on Sundays. It's not Latino, it's American. And the experience is beautiful. Because of the language, I use headphones. I understand some of what they say. And in the middle of that is my friend David, who's learning a lot of my language. And he helps me a lot. I like the Bible study, how they share. There's a brotherhood. It's different. It's not routine of now the reading, now the offering, now the prayer. No, it's more like living together. I really like it.
Hay una hermandad. Es algo diferente. No hay la rutina de que vamos a dar el parlamento, luego vamos a rezar. Es muy bonito.
And you have a special connection with some of the children too?
Yes. 2 weeks ago, the pastor talked with me about my faith in God and my experience with children. And he gave me the opportunity to be with the children in school. So I attend the children's Sabbath school. And it's beautiful because it reminds me of my life, because I'm being useful. It's natural for me.
And why do you spend time in a multicultural American church and not only a Hispanic church?
Because in the multicultural church with these American leaders, it's very different. There's more of a sense of brothers, of family, like, if you fall, I lift you up. They practice what they say. They don't just say it, they live it. It's very different. When they see someone fall, they lift them up. I've only been going for a few months, but I really like how they treat people. Not only towards me, towards everyone. They truly act like brothers.
And do you think there are things we can do to better welcome other immigrants?
Yo pienso que sí.
I think so. Some churches don't know about this kind of church. They haven't experienced it. So we should make it more known. Reach out to people, invite them, let them see the reality. There are many believers in God, but sometimes they just choose the wrong pastor.
I think there are many Christians in our neighborhoods.
Yes, there are. So I think we should promote the church more. Invite them. Not directly to Sunday service, but to the Thursday gatherings where people can get used to the community. Then invite them to church.
Is there anything else you want to share from your past, present, or hopes for the future?
Well, a small summary of the past. In Ecuador, I felt wonderful. I felt fulfilled as a person, a woman, a mother, and as a professional. I had everything a person in Ecuador could want, materially and spiritually. I had my house, my farm, my 2 businesses, my job. That's very good for someone in Ecuador. I had my children around me with love. It was a beautiful life. I never thought of leaving. I liked to travel. I liked to go out. I enjoyed Ecuador. I could say I know it 100%. I always traveled. I liked being social, sharing with communities, helping people in sad situations. For me, I only left Ecuador for trips, and then I would come back. But when extortion happened, it was very hard, very sad to leave Ecuador and leave everything. And now to start from zero here in this country, I'm starting from zero holding God's hand, and with hope that I will overcome. I want, first of all, my work permit, because with that, I can work in my profession. My degree is international. I presented it to an academy and they said yes, but I need the work permit. And I need legal status, so I'm not suffering with these thoughts of they're going to come and get me, they're going to send me away. I cannot go to Ecuador. If I go, because of my skin color and everything else, they know me. They would follow me, and it will be my death. And yes, everyone will die one day, but I want that day to be later, not now. So I want to stay in this country, living my life. God knows why he brought me here and why he keeps me here, and I will not complain. I'm very grateful to God and to the friends that he has given me.
Muy agradecida con Dios y con las amistades que me ha presentado.
Muchas gracias por...
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Your heart is very beautiful, and it's incredible to know you.
Thank you, David. You're very kind for all the patience you have with me.
You have patience with me.
Sí, demasiada paciencia.
Thank you for listening to Martina's powerful story. If you would like to donate to help cover Martina's expenses for her asylum case, you can find a link in the show notes.